In any art form, whether it be music, video, or visual arts, there are certain songs, films, and paintings that resonate with us instantly and continuously. We might award such works with a title like perfection or magnum opus. In art, it might be something as breathtaking as the creation of Adam, a famous grand fresco or painted ceiling. In music, it could be Mozart's Requiem, or even just simply your favorite song you first heard in childhood. But if I were to ask you to explain why those things are so good, would you be able to sufficiently articulate why those works just click? Some art is inherently good without explicit reason, and sure, you could go on to explain how technical detail or the artist's background contribute, but instead of answering why, you begin to create an analysis that's answering how a work is great. That's why I think it's so great to be a composer, because you get to go beyond the how and speculate why a work of art is successful. Music theory can only get you so far. Certainly it's important, but just because you can name a chord doesn't mean you can succinctly tell me why a theme is great, and also replicate such an emotion with your own music by copying what you've just analyzed. That is what this video aims to do. It's to speculate on what makes the music from Nier Replicant so powerful, particularly the track titled Grandma. And if you made it this far, it turns out everyone who watched my last video was new, so please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm aiming for a goal of 500 subscribers. You can follow along for more videos on video game music and composition. When analyzing musical themes, I try to approach it as a composer instead of a theorist or a researcher or musicologist. It's not to say I don't enjoy some good music theory from time to time, but I found that I'm trying to explain music from a purely theoretical aspect is like telling you about a poem's rhyme scheme without ever understanding that the poem is about death or love or anything else important to you. At the end of the day, rhyme schemes aren't just not that important to me. The music's important. But if we're being honest, it's not the main reason we have a track on repeat in video game music. You listen back to this incredible music to relive its story and characters. So it's more important to me to understand the reason why certain songs work and others don't. It's not music theory that gets us there, but also understanding the relationships, connections, and people behind the music themes we love. For the first part of every analysis, I aim to have a better and deeper understanding behind the character's story before even trying to begin to explain why any rhythm, harmony, or melody does it for me. And if you'd like to skip to the music analysis part of this essay, please use the chapters below. I'll timestamp them. Who in your life stands up for you? I know for me, this is not an easy question to ask. That kind of relationship is difficult to find. It's one thing if your closest family or friends don't stand up for you when you're in trouble or need help, but it's completely other difficulty if those people in your life cling codependently to you, going beyond support and bleeding into, I'm not okay unless you're okay. Kainé's grandma, to me, strikes this perfect balance of sticking up for her, but not codependently latching onto her like a parasite. She loves Kainé unconditionally and consistently, but never over-relies on her. One of the unique things about Nier Replicant is that it requires you to play through the game multiple times to get different perspectives and contexts. Some people hate that, others love it. Us as players don't really learn about who this grandma is that Kainé's talking about until the second playthrough. In the first playthrough of the game, we just get this glimpse of grandma as maybe a monster that Kai has beef with. After we fight that shade, not too much is dispelled either. It's not until you beat the game a first time and restart from the beginning on playthrough 2, you get a novella about Kainé's grandma. And when I say novella, I mean literally text on the screen. You're reading words. Instead of controlling a player in a 3D atmosphere, you're reading text on a black screen. Many players might have mixed emotions about this, but generally this sort of experimental approach to video games is what won over so many Nier fans back in 2010. It became a cult classic for that reason. They don't play any Nier game for challenge, strategy, or story. They play Nier games because they are a work of modern art. Nier is part of the cutting edge in our postmodern era that seeks to push the boundary of interactive media. If you're an artist in any field, you probably know there's a hunger and thirst for interactivity in any art form. We see this with film in the Black Mirror series, or in music with contemporary composers composing with computers to create a more nuanced and variable performance. With video games, Nier stands apart for the variety of genres it attempts to spill over into. From action RPG to Diablo-style isometric to visual novels, and in the case of sharing Kainé Grandma's story, it's kind of a music novel to me. This novel reveals details about Kainé and her grandma's relationship. We learn that Kainé's parents died while she was a child, and Callie, the name of her grandma, raised her. When it came to bullies, her grandma would teach her how to stand up against them. Later, we learn that Callie is likely suffering from dementia, and Kainé does whatever she can to help heal her grandma, including drawing a portrait of her at the suggestion of the local apothecary. This surprisingly cheers her up. While everyone in the village shuns Kainé, Grandma loves her. Quote, Kainé took her grandmother's hand in hers, and the two of them struggled to their feet. As they began the long walk home, Kainé gripped the hand with all her might, as if trying to stop smoke from drifting away on the wind. The rain had stopped. Kainé stood beneath the weather vane, watching it spin in lazy circles, no longer caring about the direction when it stopped. I don't need to escape. I have a home now. Grandma loves me, and that's enough, even if it's us against the world. Some of us would be remiss to say that we long for this kind of love from our own family, let alone finding it randomly in the world around us. Specifically, maternal love is what's conveyed here. Often we might just play the game, listen to Grandma, the song, and think of a dramatic tragedy, but it's much more strange to think that this song is trying to express a maternal love between a grandmother or her grandchild. We learn in these novellas that Grandma is the only person to love, nurture, and protect Kainé. Then tragedy strikes as Grandma seems to be deteriorating due to dementia, forgetting things. And then the worst of it comes when a giant shade crushes their house, while Kainé's running chores. Quote, before she could say another word, the shade's clawed foot descended, smashing through the remains of the roof and down upon the shattered figure of the old woman. Blood oozed thickly from gaps in the creature's toes as the terrible, putrid smell assaulted Kainé's nose once again. She stared at the foot, dumbfounded, convinced that what she was seeing could not possibly be real. When the creature finally lifted its appendage, all that remained underneath was a twisted, unrecognizable mass of rubble and red. Her grandmother was gone. Kind of like my analysis of Emil's theme, it's a wonderment that all of these stories are deeply thought out just for side characters. To me, these themes are stronger and more compelling than Nier to his sister Yona, the main characters. In one sense, we can hear all of this drama in Grandma, the song, without ever knowing who Kainé or her grandma are. But in another sense, to know this drama only amplifies or multiplies the emotion of the music and wins us over even more. Kainé is a vulgar, tough woman when we meet her. Nier Replicant is famous, or infamous depending on how you look at it, for its many outlandish and experimental qualities. One of them being that one of the main cast members, Kainé, has a naughty word every chance she can, especially in a fight. I'm just listening to this trailer, I'm gonna beep out every other word. This channel's not an adult channel, this channel is definitely not for kids, so I'll bleep it and spare your ears.
Vice, you dumb. Start making sense, you rotten book, or you're gonna be sorry. Maybe I'll rip your pages out one by one, or maybe I'll put you in the furnace. How can someone with such a big smart brain get hypnotized like a little bitch, huh? Oh, Shadow Lord, I love you, Shadow Lord. Come over here and give Vice a big sloppy kiss, Shadow Lord. Now pull your head out of your and start helping us.
It's important to note that Kainé begins to share her grandma's personality traits. They begin to share their, what you could say, hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Quote, as is often the way with two stubborn people, their relationship had grown in fits and starts, but moved forward all the same. Meals that used to be somber affairs were now filled with laughter and hurled abuse in equal measure. Kainé could not remember a time when she had been happier. As the years went by, Kainé started to shoulder more and more of the daily responsibilities. While the track is called Grandma, the music functions as a secondary theme for Kainé herself. On one end, Kainé has her own theme, technically titled Kainé Salvation, and is used to express any change to Kainé presently or even future. Grandma, the song, is used when looking back on her past. Grandma, the theme, is an expression of death as well. It is unchangeable. Kainé Salvation is used in moments of hope or inspiration. Grandma is used to convey doom, struggle, or pain. I think what's most useful to note in this analysis is that these themes are used in tandem often. In the context of Kainé's unique stories, Grandma is first played to convey conflict, and Kainé Salvation is played after to convey resolution. After watching other video essays on analyzing them in the music theory, I found that not many of them looked at the piece from a macro view. I would strongly encourage you all to watch Jonathan, I think it's Baroque's video essay, I'll link it down in the description, on this piece, because it functions as a sort of 101 course on rhythm and harmony, but in my opinion, does not really dwell much on other detailed topics within the piece, like secondary dominance and pacing. So go watch his video, and come back to this section if you haven't seen his video on Grandma. Harmonically, we see the chord progression slowly rising in a repeatable loop. It's wonderful because it's not so cliche or on the nose. You're too distracted by the arpeggios to notice we're just taking steps upward. I wanted to create a vertical scheme of the harmony to visualize what's going on. The arpeggios are nice, but I said they're meant to distract you from what's really going on, a simple chord progression. When I take a deeper listen to this, it seems to be split structurally into two different sections. The first half conveys and expresses the foundation, the tonic, and then quickly goes to a subdominant in a typical 2-5-1 macro view. This progression shows how a simple upward scale can be embellished and colored with different non-chord tones. It's a really cool myriad of traditional Western music function with contemporary coloring. This repetition of the same harmonies over and over with the same rhythmic pattern in the piano is most reminiscent to me of Bach's Preludes. They use the same rhythm over and over to convey a certain journey. The main difference with Grandma is that the harmonic structure doesn't go on a journey, but the melody does. After all, this is a song, not a piece. A song uses not only voice, but dedicated lyrics. And to me, at least, I would label Grandma as a sort of hybrid eulogy prelude. The purpose of a eulogy is typically a speech at a funeral or a memorial service to pay tribute and celebrate the life of the deceased. In our case, it's a eulogy dedicated to Kainé's grandma, in a language that doesn't exist nonetheless. When I was in grad school, one of my colleagues put together a Google Doc that was labeled Stupid Composer. Inside this document was a list of different ways to vary music we wrote. We can take a simple melody like do, re, mi, and think of ways to just use those notes in unique ways. There's your typical elongation or diminution, where you can shorten or lengthen the rhythmic durations. You can invert the notes, reverse them, and reverse their order, and put them in different registers. You can play them in different canons or play them with multiple voices with different delay lines to get a sense of space or time. Before you do copy this chord progression, I would avoid copying what the composers from Monaco did by avoid piano playing triplets and 4-time. Instead, you can layer your melody over it, your own melody, and have a different orchestration. The chords can be exactly the same in the same progression, but vastly different in different emotional contexts depending on how you arrange it. From a historical lens, the way Grandma twists and turns in terms of rhythm and structure don't really fit any labels from classical music. To me, it's part of Prelude, chaconne, and jig, but not one or the other altogether. It's part Prelude because of its repetitive nature. Once the vocals enter, the piano part just keeps on going the same as it was, maybe some light modifications, but the perpetuo moto part of it, or the perpetual motion, keeps going. The repetitive chord progression reminds me of a chaconne, but typically to be a chaconne it has to be in a slow triple meter. Grandma's in a faster triplet 4. And finally, rhythmically, it would probably be most at home as a jig based on its 12/8 meter, but even that is difficult to pin down because it's not exactly a song you want to dance to. This piano part's justifiably epic. I took a couple of days to figure it out on the piano myself, and while it's moderately difficult, most folks with a moderate amount of piano experience will find that this progression really rolls off the fingers comfortably. Eventually, after taking the part at a slow tempo, I found myself playing it faster and even above tempo at times. Like all Nier music, you don't have to have a detailed analysis to understand its emotional weight. Grandma is an equally dramatic, compelling, and emotional piece all on its own, without the context of relationships, maternal love, and loss. But by itself, it's not quite a eulogy prelude, it's just a pretty song on piano. With its proper context and analysis, we know that in order to amplify any music we make, it must be clear, compelling, and emotional. Thanks for watching.